So more and more people are caring about their health just because people are understanding we only have one body. We can't trade our body the same way we can trade a JPEG or a token. So people are kind of realizing, oh crap, I'm going to be stuck with this thing for 100 years, maybe even 150 years or 200 years. Healthcare, it's predicted to go from 69 billion to about 500 billion by the end of the decade. That's almost like a 10x increase. We're the owners of the data. Why aren't we getting rewarded for it? So we want to kind of flip this model on its head and give control back to the generators of that data. Wearable isn't the solution to all of your life's problems. Do your research.
Yeah, and welcome back to Solana Floor. Today, we're diving into a very exciting intersection of fitness and wearables and Web3 because we're about to explore how wearables are evolving within the Solana ecosystem. And to break it all down, I'm joined by Nix, the co-founder of Pulse, which is a Solana-based wearable that's redefining fitness tracking and, of course, health engagement. Thank you very much again for making time to talk to us today, Nix. How are you?
Hey, doing very well, doing very well. It's midnight here in Hong Kong and the day is just starting for me.
Great. Towards the end of the day for me here in the Netherlands, so good to find some common ground. I want to dive into all the exciting stuff that you guys have been working on next, but at a very high level, I want to ask you first, what is Pulse and how is it different to Whoop?
Yeah, this good. It's a great question, Jack. And thanks for having me on. Really excited to kind of speak to this, engage with the Solana Floral community as well. Pulse, what we're building is essentially we call it the open health network. By that, what we mean is we're essentially allow users to aggregate their health data, encrypt it on chain, and share it with third parties for rewards. It's very much a deepened network in that regard. You've got kind of this double-sided kind of a marketplace that's kind of happening. On top of that, we also have a consumer app that essentially gives you insights around your health and your overall kind of well-being. So that's where the Whoop competition kind of comes in, where we're like competing in a similar area there. But Whoop doesn't reward users for their data. They Ultrahuman, Aura Ring, and some of these other kind of health companies out there, what they actually do is they're collecting our data and selling it to third parties. Now, my view is, okay, that's great, good for you, but why am I paying $5 a month for you to make $10 a month? Selling and commercializing this data that we're generating. We're the owners of the data. Why aren't we getting rewarded for it? So we want to kind of flip this model on its head and give control back to the generators of that data. So that's how I'd say Pulse is different. It's still giving you value in terms of insights around your health, but it's also giving you value and value and benefits in terms of incentives for essentially sharing and kind of contributing data to the network.
Just before we continue with the more sort of technical stuff, what is the Solana component in that case?
So there's a few components here, right? So Pulse, how it leverages blockchain, or one is around allowing users to encrypt their data. So we don't store data on chain. It's just not feasible from a cost and latency perspective. But what we do allow you to do is essentially decide when you want to kind of encrypt and unencrypt the data to share it with a third party. Your wallet acts as the signing key to enabling that to happen. So that's why you need a Solana wallet to be able to do that. Then secondly, it's also around getting rewards for contributing data to the network. So, we very similar to Hivemapper, Demo, etc. We reward users for essentially, collecting that data and contributing it to the network. Obviously, all of that token incentive happens on chain as well. And then third, which is a really exciting kind of component, is the data rewards. So when a third party wants to actually acquire data, let's just say it's a pharma company, they want to use it for building a new drug. Obviously, all the data is anonymous. No one knows who you are exactly, etc. It's just like very kind of high level kind of information that's kind of shared. And those rewards, again, get kind of sent to you and in your wallet.
I want to flip the script a tiny bit here and ask you why you think it's the right time to build and ship a wearable in Web3 right now, and why perhaps have some of the previous attempts not quite worked out?
The way I see it is, we're a few important convergence kind of activities are happening. So more and more people are caring about their health just because people are understanding, like, we only have one body. We can't trade our body the same way we can trade a JPEG or a token. So people are kind of realizing, oh crap, I'm going to be stuck with this thing for 100 years, maybe even 150 years or 200 years if some of these longevity kind of, technologies start going live. So if that's happening, I need to take care of this body and, keep it as effective as possible. That kind of longevity kind of and DeSci kind of movement has started to occur. Also, for the first time, I would say in human history over the last decade, since the release of the Apple Watch, really, we're able to collect real time and long term data regarding human behavior that we've never been able to have before. So, before, okay, I know when you're sleeping and I know what your heart rate is, but, you need to have like these expensive heart rate sensors, medical grade devices. You got to walk around with them all the time. Not very convenient, not very user friendly, etc., and very expensive. But now the Apple Watch, etc., has just basically turned all of this into like a commodity. And but what that means is we're collecting this data on a mass scale that's never been done before. So now the question is, okay, what can we do with this data? And we've started to see value from this data start, be unlocked as well. And healthcare is going through like what I call like this AI revolution where we're almost like re-evaluating every single kind of step of the healthcare process with an AI lens. And it's not just happening in healthcare; it's happening in almost every industry, in that regard. So healthcare, it's predicted to go from 70 billion to about 69 billion to about 500 billion by the end of the decade. That's almost like a 10x increase, in terms of like market size. And a lot of that is powered by AI because people are realizing the value of it. And the data being created by our wearables is powering all of these kind of, AI kind of unlocks. So that's why I think it's a really exciting kind of opportunity because you've got data as like an AI as like a conversion point and a kind of a unlock, and then you've also got us as humans wanting to live longer as well. So it's not like being forced on us this kind of narrative. The demand is meeting the technology, which doesn't happen very often actually. I would say like for example for crypto, the demand and the technology is just starting to kind of meet now. 10 years ago, the demand was there for self-sovereignty in terms of payments, but the demand wasn't there for like health data on chain, and the technology definitely wasn't there for the health data on chain either. Then we started getting the demand for health data on chain around 2017 when the ICO cycle kind of happened, but the technology wasn't quite there. Because the technology wasn't there, the demand kind of, fell apart as well. And it was starting to be created again. So yeah, that's why I think it's like a right time, right place. And then obviously from a deepened narrative and a deepened perspective as well, like Deepen's finally kind of started to get what I would say is a product market fit. People are starting to see like crypto can be used as a way of bootstrapping and scaling deepened networks to being much more efficient and much faster in terms of their capabilities of generating data compared to like Web 2. So, I think Pulse and Wearables and Web3 are all kind of like, happening at a what I call like almost like a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. You're not going to get this type of narrative again, in the next, 10 years later. It's now is the time.
I like that way you're thinking about the sort of convergence of all these narratives, right? You touched on DeSci, Deepin, AI, all of them are very hot topics at the moment. And then on the consumer side of it, you've got this desire to be, I guess, more in touch with your health and your well-being because you've only got, one body. I like that convergence. I'm going to ask you another slightly charged question, if you don't mind. So all that positivity aside, what do you think are 3 reasons that wearables might fail?
So, hey, this is interesting because this is actually part of the vision and inspiration behind Pulse. I've been using Whoop for a couple of years now. I had an Aura ring, so Ultra Human ring. What I noticed was a lot of us are retrofitting the wearables for a certain outcome that the wearables aren't designed to do. So what I mean by that is a lot of my friends, we use it for like sleep. We don't really care about the exercise part. Really what we care about is, am I getting enough sleep to be able to then function effectively the next day? And what ends up happening is they get some insights regarding health, sleep, etc. But then they eventually churn because there's not enough actionable insights, or they make some actions, but then they have like a positive lifestyle change and they get used to it. Then they realize, oh, I don't need this thing. That I have seen happening. And it happened to me as well. After a certain point of time, I stopped opening my Whoop as like the first thing I did in the mornings. I stopped opening my Ultra Human ring, etc. as well. And that's the opportunity that we are capitalizing on, which is how can Pulse help you unlock an extra hour of energy and productivity out of your day? And your health is like part of that component. But can I get you to a point where you're an hour more productive and you can use an hour to learn something new, do more work, spend time with family, go out, go to the gym. I don't mind how you want to use that hour, but I'm just going to give it to you. That's like the difference in terms of like what we're offering and why I think wearables generally may fail, because we're trying to do something that they're not quite designed to do from an app perspective.
That's quite interesting. So again, going back to the comparison between yourselves and Whoop, which for better or worse has been sort of the gold standard and go-to reference point. The way they launched quite successfully, some would argue, is by tapping into this sort of elite sports person market. But then that is in a way limiting in terms of the audience that you're serving, right? Whereas what you're describing to me, my interpretation of it is people work, people want to be productive, people want to be less tired, and we're going to give them actionable insight, ideally for a longer time. And we're not only aiming to serve elite athletes or people that want to be elite athletes. Is that a fair interpretation of it?
Exactly, Jack. This perfect interpretation. Whoop was for elite athletes. Pulse is for elite BD guys and girls, or marketers, builders, devs, etc. People that just want to be more energetic, more productive, and kind of excel in their day-to-day living.
Before we continue, then I want one already. I'm sold. When do we get it? When does it ship?
Q1. We have a date. I'm not gonna reveal it just yet. I want to get as close to possible as that day. Make sure nothing's going wrong, etc. Unexpected things can happen, but so far we're very much Q1 focused.
Exciting. Okay, then give me a hot take about wearables. What's something that you think is maybe a little bit contrarian or not quite as obvious to people as it is to you, given that you spend so much of your time and energy thinking about it?
I mean, there's two hot takes here. There's like Web 2 and Web 3, I think, in terms of like the hot takes. My Web 2 hot take is wearable isn't the solution to all of your life's problems. It's a data point that can help you understand certain things regarding your health. But ultimately, if you're thinking about buying a Whoop because you want to get healthy, why do you want to get healthy? And what are you willing to do with that information to then get healthy? Just because you can see the chart and it tells you something, if you're not willing to like follow through and an action, it's information for the sake of information. So I would say that's my like hot take in the kind of space, like get a wearable if you actually want to make a change, and prepare to like spend some time and effort to make that change. Web3 perspective, people are buying wearables in crypto because of the money narrative. Simple as that. We're all here to make money. That's a very important part of vision and a very important part of a differentiation between Web 2 and Web 3, getting like the Web 3 community with skin in the game. My main kind of thing there is there's going to be some winners and losers, and there's going to be some short-term gain, long-term gain, etc. And all I can say is it's like the NFT hype cycle that I'm seeing, like hardware this cycle, not wearables specifically, but like crypto hardware. If you remember last cycle, we had like all these NFT teams promising the world. Some lived up to our expectations, some didn't. Some could never live up to expectations because there was just, there was always like a higher thing you needed to do. This is Bored Apes. The full price goes up, yeah, but I want more because like whoever bought that ape at 100 ETH wanted 200 ETH as a return kind of thing. So it's like past the hot potato kind of thing, and I'm seeing that happening with hardware teams this cycle. And all I can say is like, as buyers and builders, etc., do your research. Why are you buying this? How long are you buying it for? From a return expected perspective, or like an airdrop perspective, or even like a product perspective. Are you prepared for all of this to go up or down in the right ways and the wrong ways, etc.? Like just think about that a little bit. I'm not gonna name names, teams, or anything like that. It's up to the community to kind of build and engage with the teams in the kind of right way, and it's up to the teams to build and engage with the communities in the right way.
Well, personally, I find it refreshing that your sort of frame of mind here is let's under promise and over deliver rather than make the same mistakes as so some of the NFT teams out there who over promised and under delivered. So I want to ask you about the incentive structure. We briefly touched on it there, and people might be tempted to go on Google or search in YouTube now, Pulse and the incentive structure. You're going to see quite a few people talking about passive income that they can generate through Pulse. So I want to ask you about that incentive structure.
I see crypto incentives as a bootstrapping mechanism. They help you scale and accelerate extremely quickly because all parties are getting immediate value and quick value. We obviously saw it with Hive Mapper, just with how fast it scaled, and then we obviously saw that price, the token price, etc., tanked a little bit just because there was a lot of supply and then demand just wasn't quite there. And it took the Hive Mapper team, a couple of years to kind of start building that demand, etc., for their kind of community and for the product. And it's been working out. And I see, whilst obviously I don't want to replicate this at all, no one plans for any of that, from a value and incentives perspective. What we do see is like initially our core focus is supply, 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 data, 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 data. Because if I can get data, and I can get it in large enough quantities, I can go and start selling it. So that's really important. But what I do know is these bigger companies aren't going to talk to us unless we have distribution. They think and deal in the hundreds of thousands and millions. That's exactly how we need to deal with as well. Think about this as well. So I very much see us really focusing on scale and consumer adoption initially, because that gives us that critical mass. But at the same time, we are obviously working very closely with several teams that are interested in this type of data. So that way, once we do hit that critical mass, it's a case of like we're just pressing like a couple buttons here and there, launching the kind of data exchange as well for these data brokerage kind of deals to happen. So I don't quite see it as a case of building up all this supply of data and then we go away and find that demand. It's a case of we gotta build up the supply and start engaging and kind of getting that demand ready to basically, eventually kind of capitalize on it. So that's kind of how I see it from a brokerage, sustainability, and kind of growth perspective. But what's also exciting is, and which is what I mentioned before as well, is around like the consumer proposition and users getting value from Pulse for getting the incentives. Now, there's going to be a certain type of buyer that just cares about the incentives. That's largely, I would say, a large part of your average Web3 buyer. But that's why the Web2 strategy is so important, where that narrative around I'm going to help you unlock more energy out of your day, that there is a driving point that certain portion of users are going to want to have for getting the incentives, because actually they care about that extra hour. They can utilize that extra hour to make more money at the end of the day, to have live a happier, more fulfilling life, etc. So that's what we're focusing on there. They will be paying for that value. Someone is going to say, I'm willing to pay X much a month to get that extra hour a day in like premium features. And again, that revenue, etc., can essentially be flown back into the overall kind of deep in economy. So it's not just the data sales and data brokerage. It's also the actual utilization of the technology and the consumer proposition for a person's own kind of personal unlocks that we can then eventually kind of flow back into the ecosystem. So, I would say we're in a weird way, we're kind of in a better position than like an average deepen team, because we're not just relying on this supply and demand as like a way of like creating sustainability. We have like this third part, which is just an exciting kind of consumer proposition.
If you had to guess over the next 12 to 24 months, where do you think the most demand is going to come from then? Is it going to be Web3 users outpacing the sort of the people that want the health benefits, or do you think mainly the demand is going to come for the product for people that are chasing health benefits? Have you sort of speculated on that at all?
Yeah, I don't want to give away our strategy because who knows who's listening. Look, let's just say it this way: if a team is doing an entire Web3 strategy a year after they've launched, then where's the money coming from? Let's face it. I'm gonna call it out. Where's the money coming from? There's like I know some people are in crypto. I'm revealing some like a very hot take here. There's gonna be some people in crypto that understands that and are gonna want to just do it anyway to like make the trade. Like, oh, I know that there's a hot potato happening here, but because I know it, I'm gonna basically make sure I exit before a certain before it's passed back to me. Because if the only demand is coming from Web3 entirely, then you're essentially trading against yourself and trading against other Web3 users, with a thinking and a vision and excitement around money coming in elsewhere. But if you're not seeing that from a marketing and engagement and strategy perspective, then is it actually happening? So that's what I would say, like there needs to be a certain point where a team focuses on the billions of users that want to get healthier and want to be more productive versus the millions or millions of users that only care about the token. And it's not to say that you can't make money if you only care about the token and you don't care about the web 2 users, like there's obviously ways you can still earn rewards, etc., and benefit in crypto. But you got to be savvy enough to know the difference.
The Solana Seek is theoretically shipping sometime in 2025. We don't know the exact date yet. Curious if you have or you're planning a partnership or some sort of link to the Seeker and other teams in the Solana ecosystem that are working very hard on physical products.
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away. I'm not allowed to. But obviously there are a lot of very exciting teams that are building very credible hardware products in crypto that we're very excited by. We've been in various conversations with around. I see that there's a lot of activations we can and will be doing with other teams. I mean, we announced one already with Pop.Science. You could probably kind of saw that, where Pulse will be powering all of their kind of, human studies moving forward. There's going to be like a big one, going live next year where people can take part. They can mine the Pulse token by taking part in that study, which is really cool. And they can obviously speculate on the price of like that drug that, the Pump.Science kind of team is launching as well. That's going to be powered by Pulse data. So, we're very serious when we do certain collaborations, and it's like a world's first as well. Like that thing that we announced with Pump.Science, that was like a world's first in terms of decentralized study powered by a decentralized wearable team. That's like the level of ambition and the level of expectations we have ourselves. Every new collaboration has to be industry leading, value generating, and long term very credible.
Personal question: when can I test it? Am I going to get one sent a little bit ahead of time so I can test it, get some data, see how terrible my sleeping pattern is because I'm staring at screens all the time?
Yeah, we actually opened up our beta tester application form the other week. We had like over 100 people applying, and then we only opened that up to 300, 400 people, like 7 roles in our Discord. So it wasn't even like everyone. We opened up to very few people. So I'll send you a link, Jack, and then you can apply as well. We'll get you in.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I'd like that. So where can we follow along with the updates? Early next year sometime, I guess we're going to get some big news from you guys. Should we join the Discord? Are there socials we can follow along with?
Yeah. Twitter is where we're most active on. Just follow us on there. It's twitter.com/pulse no limits. Discord's great. We do a lot of community engagement on our Discord. For people that haven't bought one yet, have bought one, etc. There's, even if you've not acquired a Pulse yet, you can still take part and get value from the ecosystem that we're building. Like that's very important for us. And yeah, there'll be other ways you can follow Pulse very soon. We're going to be very active on other platforms as well.
Exciting. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much for making time to talk to us, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. Take care, and we'll speak soon.